Good morning. Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Berkeley. I'm Reverend Marcus Liefert, and I'm so glad to be with you this bright and shiny Sunday morning. We hope that if you are visiting with us, you will feel welcome here. We hope that no matter who you are or how you make your living, no matter whom you love or how you experience the sacred, you will feel welcome here. If you have questions about what's happening in the life of our community, there's folks at the welcome table in the atrium who are happy to answer them. And everyone's invited to walk all the way through the atrium into the social hall to join us for a meal after the service each Sunday. So hope you'll stick around. We are always glad also to hear what's on your heart. If there's something heavy or joyous that you'd like read aloud for the congregation to hear and hold, you can write it in the memory book at the back of the sanctuary or light a candle for a silent memory or prayer. We're in the midst of our worship series coming to its end during this season of the Christian calendar of Lent on our holy embodiment, celebrating our embodiment being courageously corporeal. And today we're going to talk about that vulnerability of letting the world touch us in our fragile, fleshy selves. We're going to sing an American hymn, Bright Morning Stars, to begin, which touches on that. It's a hymn of grief, a hymn of remembering those bodies that have passed on already. Would you rise in body or in spirit, and we'll sing together.
Bright morning stars are rising. Bright morning stars are rising. Bright morning stars are rising. Day is a breaking in my soul. Oh, where are our dear mothers? Oh, where are our dear mothers? Oh, where are our dear mothers? Day is
Good morning. I'm Jason, and I'm your worship associate today. As we light our chalice to begin our service, we remind ourselves that our church occupies land in Huichin, the unceded territory of the Chochenyo-speaking Ohlone people. May we have the humility and courage to do our part to restore what has been broken, and the wisdom to live in a new solidarity with indigenous communities and the earth. Now I invite you to close your eyes as we rekindle our own flames with these words graciously provided by an anonymous source. Forget about enlightenment. Sit down wherever you are and listen to the wind that is singing in your veins. Feel the longing, the fear, the love in your bones. Open your heart to who you are right now, not who you'd like to be, not the saint that you're striving to become, but the being right here before you, inside you. All of you is holy. You are already more and less than whatever you can know. Breathe out. Look in. Let go. Would you now join me with saying our covenant? Love guides this church. The quest for truth and justice is its common purpose. To give thanks, listen deeply, speak with care, honor our differences, and seek and grant forgiveness. These things we covenant with one another.
I've got a story to share this morning, and I wonder if anyone wants to come join me up here on the steps to hear this story. You might be young, or you might be young of heart, and you would like to come on up. You're welcome. I'm going to tell you a story that happened long, long ago. So once upon a time, there was a woman who would become to be known as Kisa Gotami. And she was the first woman in the legends to become a disciple of the Buddha. You've heard about the Buddha? Anybody hear about the Buddha? Yeah? A little bit? Disciple is somebody who follows, who learns from, like a student, somebody who is like a follower of the teacher. And so this happens before she became the Buddha's disciple, though. This happened when she was younger, and she had wanted more than anything in her life to have a child. And she had a child. She had a beautiful baby. But then a very sad thing happened. She lost her child. Her child died when it was very young. And she just couldn't believe it. It was more than she could take in, more than she could feel was real. This was not the way she wanted to be touched by the world. And she said, no, this is not happening. And so she went out to seek the Buddha's help to bring her son back to life. She brought the body of her child, and she went to the Buddha, who was this famous teacher, and said, can you help me? Please, Buddha, I cannot bear this. Can you help me? And the Buddha looked at her, compassion on his eyes, little smile. And he took a deep breath. He knew, of course, he could not bring this child back to life, but he said, yes, I can help you. But what I'll need is for you to bring me a mustard seed. And the woman thought, great, there's mustard seeds everywhere. I'll go, no problem. I can find a mustard seed. These tiny little seeds. But the Buddha said, but there's one thing. The mustard seed, it has to come from a home that has not known grief. And so the woman said, okay. And she went to her neighbors. She knocked on their doors. She would say, do you have a mustard seed I could have? And of course they would say, yes, of course we have a mustard seed. And then she'd say, okay, and has anyone died in your home, in your family? And they would say, well, yes. My grandmother, yes. My father, yes. Our cousin. Every home that she went to, every home would tell her, yes, we've known grief here. After visiting countless homes, she finally fell apart and wept in the arms of a stranger who had told her that he also had lost a son. And when she came back to the Buddha, having been thoroughly touched by the world, by this loss, she realized she had been helped. There was a wholeness, even though she still felt bad. And she decided to give her life to helping people the way the Buddha had helped her. Not by bringing anybody back to life, but by feeling the ways that the world had already touched her and everyone else. Will you join me in singing our children out? We're going to sing Go Now in Peace.
Good morning. Some part of muscle memory, every time we sing Go Now in Peace, I think I'm supposed to walk out the door. I come to you this morning as the wrong Simpson. My mother, Carrie Simpson, was supposed to come and talk about pledging and her long experience of giving generously to this congregation. Unfortunately, she re-injured her knee on Friday night. So she's at home watching, I'm sure ready to tell me all of the things that I got not quite correct when I return this afternoon. When she sent a message out to the church listserv saying, "It has happened again," she was flooded with responses and offers of help. Everything from wheelchairs to rides to appointments, coming to visit so she has something to do other than watching TV and looking at her knee. It has been my experience after 40 some odd years in church life that you get from church what you give to church. And my parents have given a lot to this church. I think, and this is one of those things she can fact check me on, that they, between them, have been on every single committee except for buildings and grounds, which they shall not be joining, I'm fairly certain. And I have watched the ways in which this church has enveloped them, has provided a soft landing space when they needed it, partners in crime when they needed those as well. My parents were married here. I was ordained here. Someday we will all have plaques on the wall outside there. This place has been everything to us for a really long time. And I thought about that last year when this congregation was in search for a new minister. And some of you very generously asked if I might be interested in applying and serving this congregation. I think somehow you knew that you were looking for a tall, broad, blonde, lifelong Unitarian Universalist, raised in a Bay Area congregation, trained at Star King, with lesbian moms. You just had the wrong one. But what is true is that while I was flattered and a little part of me was tempted, I love this place too much to be your minister. This is my soft landing place. This is my parents' soft landing place. This is the place that I know will be here in all of the hard and beautiful moments of our lives. And that is worth way more to me than what I'm sure is a very good job. And so this year I will be pledging again. I come and go because this place matters to me, because I want it to be a soft landing place for everyone who walks through the doors. Because you never know who's going to show up to women at a time when that's unusual with a small child, and you'll end up with two people so deeply woven into the fabric of this place that it is hard to imagine it without them and them without it. So thank you for being a place that I call home, that is always home, no matter when I return. And give a lot of money.
Sorry, I have a few comments. Is this on? Hi. Thank you, Aya. I just wanted to give you a brief update about stewardship, the campaign that we started at the beginning of March. Today is Celebration Sunday, which means it's the last day that we focus on stewardship during our church service. I announced an initial pledge goal in our February congregational meeting of $450,000. I'm very excited to say that as of a few minutes ago this morning, we are at a bit over 75% of that goal, which is an amazing jump from 3 days ago. So thank you to everyone who has pledged. We would, of course, love to raise more than $450,000. There's a lot of stuff that we could do with extra money, like improving our staff wages to make them more equitable, and improving sound systems in other parts of the church, just to name a couple. But we're doing great, and I hope that you will join in our celebration after the service. We will be having cake, and the raffle that you may have heard about your ability to enter the raffle by pledging will be extended by a few minutes after the service in case anybody's excited about doing that. I just want to say that when we pledge, we are making our intentions to support UUCB clear, and that makes it so much easier and more comfortable for our budget team, the planners, to do their job, which is coming up with a feasible operating budget. So that's why we ask you to think into the future and pledge now. We really have a lot of potential here to have a really well-supported church, and we really hope that people will make a commitment. So please come to the table in the atrium after the service, turn in your pledge, ask questions, and get some cake. Thank you.
Rock me, calm and easy. Hold me, rock me, deep and wide. Hold me, rock me in your arms, so I got a home on the other side. Hold me, rock me, calm and easy. Hold me, rock me, deep and wide. Oh, hold me, rock me in your arms, so I got a home on, I got a home on, I got a home on the other side. Someday could cross that river, someday could set out on my own. Don't know where my journey leads, but I keep on walking till I get me home. Yes, hold me, rock me, rock me, and easy. Hold me, rock me, deep and wide. Hold me, rock me, in your arms. I got a home, I got a home, I got a home, I got a home, I got a home on the other side. My life is a running river, flowing from mountains to a distant sea. I know many hills and valleys, but when I reach that ocean, I'll be free. Yes, hold me, rock me, rock me, easy. Hold me, rock me, deep and wide. Hold me, rock me, in your arms. I got a home, I got a home, I got a home, I got a home, I got a home on the other side. Yes, I got a home, I got a home, I got a home on the other side. On the other side.
I invite you to take a deeper breath, to settle into your seat, to feel your connection down to this good, this holy earth. Even trees have trouble letting go sometimes. Like the row of liquid ambers still clinging to last year's leaves, long since brown, on the same branches where new foliage is beginning to unfurl. Even trees get confused, like the young apple we planted who waits until the fall to bloom. When our bodies are confused and lose touch with the rhythms of the earth, when our bodies still cling to old stories, cells wrapping themselves around hurts from long ago like the knots in a venerable oak's trunk, when fear of what's to come grips us in the gut, the heart, the throat, the jaw, so we would keep from touching the world with our tender unfolding. When our bodies shape themselves, brace themselves to prepare for the future as if reliving the pain of the past is inevitable. Hold us, rock us. Hold us, rock us, calm and easy, deep and wide. O holy mystery, hold us, rock us in your arms. Let the winds and the rain touch us. Hold us, rock us, strip us of what no longer serves us. As the last dead leaf returns to the earth, return us to here and now, where every part of us is welcome in this circle of love, in this quiet stillness, in this holy body of breath and flesh. In this community of care and witness, we hold one another through the seasons of our lives and lift up those joys and sorrows, griefs and gratitudes among us. Today, with Lynn Cahoon and so many others here, we offer our love and wishes for comfort to Gil Weissman, whose wife Barbara died this past Wednesday. All are welcome to sign the card for her in the atrium and to come to celebrate and honor her life this Tuesday, 10 a.m. here. With Richie Dawkins, we offer blessings and prayers to Aaron Jackson, who has been struggling for years with cancer that has gone now into remission. Amen. I'm with Anna Sale, remembering our family pet vole, Chico. With Catherine Hanway, grateful for being invited to participate in an equinox ritual by new friends, resulting from our shared grief and loss of Don Moriarty. Also, for such a loving husband who tolerates my most obstinate moments. May we all be so blessed. With Cindy Greenleaf, we lift up at 77 years old. Paul left this morning on an epic photographic journey to Patagonia. He'll be climbing mountains, learning new technique, and hopefully catching a bit of sleep. Please hold his safety on the journey in your heart and look forward to his night sky photos to come. I celebrate with Karina Gould, and all of the indigenous folks she's been working with and allies as their journey has come to a significant victory where the West Berkeley Shell Mound will be given back to the indigenous tribes. Thank you to all who made that happen. For all that has been named aloud and all that yet remains in the silent sanctuaries of our hearts, may each of us know that what we hold here is held in the loving embrace of this community, and by that love beyond all naming, that love that cannot and will not let us go. May it be so, and amen. I invite you to remain seated as we sing together once more. I'm going to sing, "There is a Balm in Gilead."
There is a balm
There is a balm in Gilead to make the wounded whole. There is a balm in Gilead to heal the sin-sick soul. Anybody struggle with that song? Anybody a little bit mad at me right now? I sang that song with a group of Unitarian Universalist ministers and Dr. Isaiah Barnwell, who one of the founding members of Sweet Honey in the Rock, the incredible music group that started at the Unitarian Church out in Washington, D.C., All Souls. Isaiah explained that song to us. She exegeted it in the seminary terminology. She said, in the spirituals, sin is, we're talking about slavery. That sin-sick soul is the souls of the white folks who are participating in an evil which they cannot recognize. And the wounded who need to be made whole are, of course, the black folks enslaved. And what touched me in her explaining the song as she pulled it apart for us was it's the same balm that is needed to make the wounded whole and to heal the sin-sick soul. The very same balm that does both of these miraculous things. Toni Morrison says this, and this is the beginning of a paper I'm going to share a little bit about by Rebecca Parker, who was the president of the seminary when Aya and I were studying Unitarian Universalist theology. Rebecca begins with this quote from Toni Morrison. She says, "A good deal of time and intelligence has been invested in the exposure of racism and the horrific results on its objects. It seems both poignant and striking how avoided and unanalyzed is the effect of racist inflection on the subject." So a lot of time spent on the object, those on the receiving end of racism, not so much on those creating it. The scholarship that looks into the mind, imagination, and behavior of slaves, she says, is valuable, but equally valuable is a serious intellectual effort to see what racial ideology does to the mind, imagination, and behavior of masters. So Rebecca leads us on a journey. She says she's on a car trip. This is decades and decades ago, a car trip with a friend of hers, and they're in an unfamiliar place when they notice that there's water, quite a bit of water everywhere, and they start to talk to each other in the dry safety of their car about how there must have been quite a flood recently in this area. And they keep on driving through, and there's more water, and there's water rising up under the bridge that they're going over. It's getting a little bit scary, and they're quite astonished at just how much water this flood that must have happened some time ago was pouring down, until they come around another turn and are facing into a sheet of water flowing at them, and turning the car around to avoid it, they see more water rising behind them, and they realize the flood was not some other time but now. This, she says, is what it's like to be white in America. It's to travel well ensconced in a secure vehicle, to see signs of what is happening in the world outside the compartment one is traveling in, and not realize that these signs have any contemporary meaning. It is to be dislocated, or I might even say dissociated, to misjudge your location and to believe you are uninvolved and unaffected by what is happening in the world. We are so good, us human beings, at devising ways to avoid being touched by the world. But to be willing to be touched, to have access to the wholeness of our beings, it's what is required to be alive in a world where it is not precisely clear where you end and everything else begins. To be willing to be touched is about claiming vulnerability as a capacity, a faculty, your ability to be touched as the root of your ability to touch others, to touch the world. This is the story, so it's Jesus Week. And it's the story that happens over and over again in those Jesus stories where Jesus comes and touches people, right? And Jesus touches people he's not supposed to touch. And something strange, something surprising happens, healing happens in unexpected places. But the one story that was on my mind thinking about all these ways that this miracle man touched people was one of the people who refuses to be touched. You remember the story of the rich young man? He comes to Jesus wanting to know how to have this liberatory spirit, this special something that seems to be emanating from around him. All these disciples, this flock of people who are enjoying abundant life together as a community. This rich man, young man, wants to be part of it. And Jesus, of course, tells him, sell all your possessions and follow me. If you want eternal life, let it all go. Become willing to be touched. And he refuses to be touched. He walks away, refuses to make himself that vulnerable to the world. And the story says, and he went away sad. This week is about preparation in that Christian liturgical calendar. It's about the preparation for this climactic moment of the story of death and, of course, resurrection, and we'll get there next week. But the right now preparing to die. I really do think it's a big part of the story, of every one of our story. We're all preparing to die. And when we can accept some of that reality, like the first woman following the Buddha, when we can bring that in close to touch it with our whole beings, there is a coming back to life, paradoxically. Right? When people first enter hospice, oftentimes their symptoms dramatically improve. If you ever experienced this with someone you know or noticed that they've done studies, right? That in accepting the death to come and in being relieved of the fight against it, aliveness, wellness springs up. Refusing to be touched, whether through our privilege, through over-anesthetization, through a medical system that can become overzealous as it sees enemies in death, death as the inevitable failure of its powers. This refusal to be touched can be a barrier to aliveness, can keep us from the salvation that is already here and now. This refusal, it is sometimes thought of as dissociation or as alienation. And it has purpose in our body's vocabulary of survival, but it also has its cost. Later in that piece, Rebecca Parker quotes the social critic Lillian Smith. She was a prominent social critic in the first half of the 20th century. She wrote Strange Fruit, and she wrote about learning racism as a form of enculturation. She said, "They who so gravely taught me to split my body from my mind and both from my soul taught me also to split my conscience from my acts and Christianity from my Southern tradition. I learned white racism the way all my Southern people learn it, by closing door after door until one's mind and heart and conscience are blocked off from each other and from reality. Some learn to screen out all except the soft and soothing. Others denied even as they saw plainly and heard." The result of this closing down process for whites, Smith says, is that we are blocked from sensible contact with the world we live in, blocked from sensible, sensory contact. We numb the senses. But I think we always end up paying the cost one way or another. Remember, in the first year of Henry's life, my son, we were under a lot of stress. We moved across the country. There were a lot of family things going on. I won't go into the whole story, but I remember the feeling in my body of buckling down to get through it. Just needed to grit my teeth and hold on to make it through. And that had always pretty much worked for me before, to get through a hard time. Pretty good at telling myself, oh, just get through this one more thing. Anybody else do that? Oh, it'll be better once, oh, just get through Easter. But it was not getting better. It was one more thing and then one more thing and the next. And I found the limits of what I could hold in my body. And it manifested as gout. I started feeling the worst pain I'd ever felt in my foot. I remember being alone, single parenting Henry for in a moment, and limping up to church with him in my arms and my foot not quite working, and limping up to the pulpit and feeling like, here it is. I've found the limit of what I can hold on to and endure without collapsing. And I hadn't quite. It took a couple more years after that, but I'll tell you more of the story as time goes on. Bessel van der Kolk, he says, this is the author famously of The Body Keeps the Score. He's a Dutch psychiatrist. He says, traumatized people chronically feel unsafe inside their bodies. The past is alive in the form of gnawing interior discomfort. Their bodies are constantly bombarded by visceral warning signs, and in an attempt to control these processes, they often become expert at ignoring their gut feelings and in numbing awareness of what is played out inside. They learn to hide from themselves. Our bodies, however, keep the score. And whether the traumas are the horrific kind that we read about in the news or Christians commemorate in this story retold this week, or whether the traumas are the everyday kind every one of us collects, the inevitable traumas of aging, of fragile bodies coming into contact with the harshness of the world, our bodies keep the score. They keep the score in root canals and flattened arches, in knees and hips and lower backs that let us know when we've reached our limits, in clenched shoulders and tight necks, in distressed pelvic floors and irritable bowels. Bodies keep the score in liver disease and kidney failure, in heart attacks and strokes and tumors, diabetes and dementia. You know the story. No one gets through unscathed. But the mystic's holy secret, the riddle at the heart of the story of this Holy Week, the balm in Gilead is this: when we hold our pain with love and lamentation, when we hold it close and allow ourselves to be touched, it can become an invitation to awakening. A trailhead on the path to salvation in the here and now. A salvation not of freedom from suffering, but of renewed communion with a balm that will always be there to touch and tend the places that hurt. The moment, Rebecca says, my friend in Pennsylvania and I left our car and felt the rain falling on our bodies, soaking our skin, and had to exert ourselves to scramble to safety, was a blessed moment. Not because there's any virtue in danger, but because it was a moment when disoriented, alienated consciousness was interrupted. It took me a few years to come around, but I take my gout medicine daily now. I indulge in the privilege of keeping pain at bay. It's not that the suffering itself is redemptive. There's no virtue in the danger and the pain. It's that there is a blessing in being touched and then taking action with the senses alive and awake to the moment. This is the call of our faith, to be willing to be touched, moved, and then to use our capacity for vulnerability to feel the hurt of the world as our own. And through being touched, to reach out and touch back with our love. We're going to sing a song in a few minutes to close the service. And I just wanted to tell you the story if you don't know it. The song was originally called Standing on the Side of Love. It was a song that came out of a moment in the Unitarian Universalist Association president's office. William Sinkford, president at the time, got a call from the press who wanted to know how the association felt about the latest headline regarding marriage equality. The person on the other end of the phone asked Bill, where do you stand? And Bill said, well, we stand on the side of love. And I still find that moment moving. I find our whole tradition's commitment to that cause deeply moving. And Bill said that line, and it happened to be in the presence of a musician, Jason Shelton, who thought that'd make a pretty good song. And so we wrote this anthem, Standing on the Side of Love, that we sang full-heartedly, full vocally at our congregations and at our national gatherings. And then some folks said, hey, hold on, our justice anthem that we are rallying everyone around has language that does not include me. People who could not stand on the side of love, but of course who were siding with love. And because it was a symbol of our work of being touched and therefore trying to touch the world, Jason was moved by those voices and rewrote the opening of the song. We are answering the call of love, we now say. And I don't think we want to go around stopping using our bodily metaphors left and right. We're going to sing plenty of songs where we refer to metaphors that some people experience and some people don't. And we empathize and reach across and imagine what it would be like to be others. But we also hear the hurt and the pain. We become touched by it and changed by it. And so we grow and adapt. This Holy Week, I wonder, what is it that you might need to prepare yourself to be touched by? Rebecca, she closes that piece by saying, I step out of an insular shell and come into immediate contact with the full texture of our present reality. I feel the rain on my face and breathe the fresh air. I wade in the waters that spirit has troubled and stirred. The water drenching me baptizes me into a new life. I become a citizen not of somewhere else, but here. What baptism, what anointing balm, what troubled waters, what grief might you need to prepare yourself to be touched by? Before new life arises, let us be drenched, become again citizens of our own flesh. May it be so, and amen.
We invite you now into the spiritual practice of generosity. Instead of passing the plate, you can give electronically by scanning the QR code on the back of your badge, or you can put cash or check donations into the donation envelope that you'll find at the back of the pew in front of you. Please write your name on it and mark offering plate or pledge, and then put it into the donation box beside the fountain in the atrium as you leave the service. Each week, half of the offering plate is shared with a nonprofit Good Neighbor organization recommended by our wonderful Social Justice Council. Thank you so much for practicing generosity with UUCB and with our good neighbors. Offering of any amount are accepted with gratitude. The Good Neighbor for this month is Pogo Park. Pogo Park's mission is to create magical play spaces for children everywhere, transforming lives by transforming public space. Pogo Park transforms broken and little-used city parks in one of America's toughest inner-city neighborhoods, Richmond, California's Iron Triangle, into safe, green, beautiful public spaces for children to play. Thank you.
Close together, each a candle, each a flame. All the danger
Please join me in dedicating our offering. We dedicate our offering and ourselves to the mission of this congregation to create loving community, inspire spiritual growth, and encourage lives of integrity, joy, and service.
A few things I want to lift up about what's happening in the life of our community. You can always find out this information on the website under the news tab the week ahead. But next Sunday is Easter, and we will have our annual Easter egg hunt. It's going to be at 10 a.m. before the service. So if you'd like to participate, if you know your little ones who'd like to participate, come before the service at 10 a.m. It's a lot of fun out on the hillside. Look forward to being with you there. And we hear that the Easter Bunny Rainbow Goddess will make an appearance again this year. The Social Justice Council is sponsoring a clothes drive for the Diné people on the Navajo Reservation. Thank you to Maria, who has been organizing that. A donation box is in the atrium until Sunday, March 31st, next week, to receive donations. And so more information about what to donate can be found at the Social Justice Council information table if you want to help out. I know that there's volunteers needed to help box and pack it ready, the materials to be shipped. So thanks if you can. A word about somebody's installation ceremony. It's now 28 days away. That's only 4 Sundays from now, April 21st at 2:30 p.m. All are welcome. Don't forget to RSVP. Please do that so that we can have an accurate count for their preparing food and so on. You can do it online at uucb.org/installation or stop by a table in the atrium after the service. The ceremony will also be live streamed, so welcome to join us on that as well. Let's rise now once more in body or in spirit, as you're willing and or able, and we are going to sing our final hymn. It is Answering the Call of Love.
The promise of the Spirit, faith, hope, and love abide, and so every soul is blessed and made whole. The truth in our hearts is our guide. We are answering the call of love. Hands joined together, as hearts beat as one, emboldened by faith, we dare to proclaim. We are answering the call of love. Sometimes we build a barrier to keep love tightly bound, corrupted by fear, unwilling to hear, denying the beauty we found. We are answering the call of love. Hands joined together, as hearts beat as one, emboldened by faith, we dare to proclaim. We are answering the call of love. A bright new day is dawning, when love will not divide. Reflections of grace in every embrace, fulfilling the vision divine. We are answering the call of love. Hands joined together, as hearts beat as one, emboldened by faith, we dare to proclaim. We are answering the call of love. We are answering the call of love.
If you're willing to be touched, reach out a hand or an elbow, or just reach out to something beyond if you're not. But let us remember that we are one body, that we depend on each other more than we know, and that body to body, hand to hand, touch to touch, we will repair this world one heart at a time. May it be so, and amen.